Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the railway. Today I'm doing a good old-fashioned brake van review. Today's brake van is made by Hornby and it was first released in 2020, so that makes it reasonably modern. The brake van is this. It is the 20-ton BR brake van, which was originally an LMS brake van, except as you can see this has been produced in a later BR livery. Now the reason I'm reviewing one of these now is that this one was an absolute bargain. So the full price on hornby.com for one of these is £29.49, which in itself isn't really that bad because there are some open wagons out there that are more expensive than that. However, I managed to pick this one up for £14.99, which is around half the price. Absolutely crazy bargain, really. Now, I assume possibly this livery is somewhat less popular than your more typical BR livery in the brown, let's say, and maybe that's why this one was so cheap, because the brown ones, for instance, while they are reduced quite a bit down to £17.95, they're not quite as cheap as this one, but personally I like the more unusual liveries. I've got a bucket full of brown brake vans. Don't think I've got a blue one, so for me this might have been my choice anyway. But we'll see what it's like. Hopefully this is going to be modern in its features and detail, and it's been a long time since I've reviewed a brake van properly. So let's open this up, let's see what this is like, and if you'd like to get one for yourself, I will pop an affiliate link down in the description for you. But for now, let's get started. Alright, so an interesting brake van in a very interesting livery, and it does look pretty complex from the outside of the box, so quite looking forward to seeing what this one's like. Let me show you the end of the box. So the exact model I've got is R60088. It is in the S&T BR livery, ex-LMS, 20-ton brake van, and this one is Chester. And with that, there's nothing more to see on the box, so let's get this out and let's see what this is like. Not too sure what to expect because a few years ago, 30 odd pounds would have been a fortune for a brake van, whereas today it actually seems to be on the reasonable side. So yeah, we'll just have to see. Anyway, we've got some, well, I say instructions, it's just a small note here. LMS/BR brake van accessory bag, vac pipes. Well, you know what? Props to them for actually including some tips on how to do this, because it does seem quite self-explanatory, yet it is nice just to have a bit of a guide. So there we go, that's awesome, and let's have a look at them. So there you have it. Some rather large looking vacuum pipes, and yep, they seem to be nicely detailed parts. Although noticeably one of the vacuum pipes is missing. The instructions said there should be 4. In here there's definitely only 3, so not a great start. So with that, let's open this up and let's take our first look at that livery and also the finish. So here we go. Carefully undo this. Has got some plastic on the top. Oh yeah. Okay, so, you know, I suppose as a brake van roof, you're not going to be expecting high levels of gloss. But yeah, that looks okay. That doesn't look bad at all. Let's lift it up. Okay, yeah. So it's reasonably lightweight, as you'd probably expect from a brake van. And the construction does seem to be largely plastic, which is pretty much in keeping with the other brake vans I've looked at. But we'll take a closer look at the decoration and the level of detail in just a second, and I'll give you some thoughts on the quality and such. But for now, some background on these brake vans, and Hornby's own information on these brake vans is just generic. There's nothing specific to this brake van, and they also spell the word brake wrong on multiple occasions. So Hornby, please check your spelling for once. And for now, here's some information that I found elsewhere that is more specific to this brake van. So the LMS 20-ton brake van was first introduced in 1935 when the first of almost 3,000 examples was constructed. Until 1967, a brake van was required by law at the end of freight trains. They had handbrakes on board which could be applied by a guard travelling inside. Following the nationalisation of 1948, the LMS brake vans carried into BR ownership, who painted them into BR liveries like this one, and they even continued to produce the design into the 1950s. They then continued to be used until the 1980s, which gave rise to some more modern liveried examples. While they're not generally used today, you can still see lots of examples in operation at various heritage railways. So there it is, up close and personal for you, Hornby's ex-LMS 20-ton brake van, and as you can see this is a well presented model except for the glue marks. These were fairly noticeable straight away and they're pretty bad on this one, so they're all over the bodywork as you can see. We've also got them on the chassis, there's plenty of misting there, and also a gigantic fingerprint on one of the glazing pieces. I suppose the only silver lining with this one is that it's so clear Hornby could probably use it to find out who did it. And it's a real shame because this is a consistent issue across many Hornby products and they don't seem to be addressing it, and it is spoiling products, I think. Apart from that though, yeah, it is a decently detailed model, not outstanding or anything, but then again it wasn't ludicrously expensive, so I do think this is okay for the money, except the glue, which I am going to keep mentioning. Anyway, the weight comes in at 42 grams, which is a little bit on the light side for such a large brake van. The construction is mainly plastic, although I suppose that is fair enough. Compared with a similar sized Bachmann brake van, this is the Dancehall from the SECR. This one's a few grams heavier at 45 grams. So this is a little bit on the light side, but it is in line with other brake vans, so no issue with that. Let's talk about the decoration then. So I do love this sort of deep greeny blue colour almost. Yeah, that's a really cool effect on a brake van, quite an interesting livery as well. It's got a few printed details on it, S&T, which stands for Sams and Trains. You've got the BR double arrows on the ducket, which is painted black. That's a really cool look. And then you've got other prints like the Chester print, and also this chalkboard on the side, which has a slightly different finish to it than the rest of the model. And this actually works really well because it doesn't just look like it's been painted onto the model. It almost looks like a separate object without being a physically separate part. So that's a good effect. And yeah, there's all sorts of different print work on not only the body, but also the chassis as well, which looks great. The ends, of course, are picked out in the yellow, and then the lamp brackets on there have been painted into the white, although these lamp brackets are not separately fitted, they're just a part of the moulding. The lamp brackets on the upper section of the verandas, though, have not been picked out. I believe in this livery they should be white, but instead they just kind of disappear because they don't stand out. In terms of detail then, we've got these footboards which may be a part of the moulding, but they do seem to be straightly applied, and of course the steps themselves have been painted white, which looks good. The sole bar has some good moulded detail on it, as you can see, which looks great, and we've also got detailed axle boxes and springs. Nice metal wheels, good quality as usual from Hornby, and the underframe detail is fairly basic on this one, although you wouldn't really be able to see it anyway because of these blocks on the chassis, which are prototypical, they really should be there. The couplings are pretty interesting, they're not kinematic, but they are sprung in a pretty neat way, and this is actually quite effective, so yep, there you go, no problem with that. Buffer beams, we've got metal buffers which are not sprung or anything, but again that is fair enough for the price. While we do have the hooks for the couplings, no couplings were provided, which I think is a pity. Noticeably though, the buffer beams don't have holes for the vacuum pipes provided, and interestingly the vacuum pipes are supposed to hook around this buffer beam and then you just glue them in place. So I actually like that a lot. It looks good because there's no holes in the buffer beam out of the box, but you can still fit the vac pipes if you want, so that's really neat. The handrails are made of metal, they are wire I believe, which makes them nice and sturdy, and noticeably they are straightly applied to this model too, which is great. And there's a lot of them as well, all of them separately fitted, so that is good to see. The verandas have the wooden floor effect, although that is not painted brown, that's left blue, so again that could have been improved a little bit. We do have glazing on the inside, which is slightly spoilt by the amount of glue on them, but at least they are glazed. Now while the interior is not massively detailed or anything and there's not going to be any lighting, there are some separate parts in there. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get great shots of them, but there is a brake wheel in there, there is a stove with a chimney which matches up to the chimney on the outside of the body, which is a nice touch, and there is some detail around the ducats as well, and again this matches up with the ducats on the outside, which also have glazing on them. And then I guess I'll give you a shot of the roof just so that you can see what this looks like, although there's not a whole lot of detail going on up there as per the prototype. So there you have it, a well-detailed model, not the most complex in the world. A few more separately fitted parts might have made this look a little bit more premium. And yeah, I think for 30 quid in 2020, this would have been a bit pricey. However, it's now 2024, this model's had a few years of inflation working on it, and I think now 30 quid or so seems pretty reasonable for this, and obviously the price I paid, which is around half of that, is definitely a bargain, although frankly I wouldn't have wanted to pay more than £15 for this given some of the glue marks on it. I really don't like that, it does spoil models. But anyway, that's the level of detail, it's pretty decent. Let's now get this down onto the track and let's test its performance. So here is today's test setup. I've selected a locomotive with the double BR arrows on it, that's the Accurascale Class 37, and a train of freight which is pretty well mixed, I would say. And then at the back I've got the new 20-ton brake van. Now I've just filmed the free rolling test and it did go absolutely fine, so it rolled all the way down Gordon's Hill, just past the signal box. There are no proper bearings on the axles of this brake van, and more modern, premium and expensive wagons do tend to have that feature, although I can take it or leave it. Most rolling stock is light enough not to need it, and the right axle box design can produce a nice free rolling wagon anyway. But yeah, it's decently free rolling. Let's now test the couplings then. So I'm going to back the Class 37 up, and this pilchard will hopefully meet the brake van. Let's do it gently. Ah, okay. Now, was that the dodgy Oxford coupling or not? Good question. Let me grab a different wagon and put that between the pilchard and the brake van, and that hopefully will answer that. Okay, this is a Hornby open wagon, so it should have a matching coupling since it's also a Hornby brake van. So here we go, let's try again. Got it now? Yeah, that's better, isn't it? And yeah, both of the hooks have engaged correctly, which is also good. So with that, let's take the brake van on its first maiden voyage and let's see how it gets on around the track. Okay, a little bit of a wait until the brake van gets here, but it should do eventually. And I'm not expecting to see any issues at all on the curves and such, but it's worth checking, I think. So here it comes now. The broader fourth radius first. Yeah, absolutely fine. Tighter second radius. No problems. So nice pivoting couplings, working really well. Obviously they are quite necessary on this brake van because it does have a long wheelbase. Fixed or stiff couplings would definitely not be a smart idea for this. And the couplings fitted are perfectly adequate. So no problem at all with the performance. It's nice and free rolling. Couples fine when you use rolling stock with decent couplings. And it's a nice smooth ride without any wobbling or anything. So performance wise, that's a massive thumbs up, except for over the points, which I haven't tested yet. So let's set up there and give that a try. Alright, well this is the simplest of tests. All I'm going to do is back the train over these two sets of points. If the brake van stays on, it's a pass. If it derails, it is a fail. So let's see. Try and park it in the right spot and open the point. The other point's already set the way I want it. So let's back over it, nice and steady. Alright, well, might as well stop there as the brake van's done both. A bit faster this time. Alright, well, I think that is a pretty clear pass. So performance, absolutely spot on. It has performed excellently on all of my tests, so that's a pretty good result. Okay, some ratings. Level of detail then, I've given a middle of the road 3-star. On the plus side, this is a very well painted model, like the decoration a lot. The moulded detail is also decent as well, particularly down towards the bottom of the wagon around the sole bar. That all looks great. And there's also some interior detail, which is good to see. On the other hand though, there's a bit of an over-reliance on moulded detail. The lamp brackets, for instance, are just a part of the moulding. No screw or chain link couplings have been provided with this. It's not got sprung buffers, no lights or anything like that, and no super detailed interior. Some more premium models do have these features, so I am reserving the higher detail scores for those models. Performance though is a 5-star, bang on, can't really fault this. Perfect on curves, perfect couplings, nice and free rolling, 5-star, nice and easy. The quality though for me at best is 3-star. It hasn't been that well put together, frankly. There is a lot of visible glue on this model, particularly around the separately fitted parts such as the glazing and the duckets. Not acceptable on any model. It's also quite lightweight with its plastic construction. A die-cast chassis I think would have been slightly better quality. On the plus side though, like I say, the decoration is spot on and some of the detail parts have been applied nicely, so I've given it 3-star. Value for money there, and the full price is £29.49. Compare that with the Bachmann Dancehall Brake Van, whose RRP is £49, and this is a lot more reasonable than that. Also, taking into account the fact that I only paid £14.99 for mine, and yeah, this is definitely not bad value. It's not a 5-star because the detail and quality aren't up to 5-star levels, but for what you get, it's not too bad at all. So overall then, that is 7.01 out of 10, or a grade of E. If the quality was perfect, this would have been up to a C, and then if it had some more details, it would have been an A. It's certainly something I could recommend at the new reduced prices, but I wouldn't pay up to £30 for this personally. Into the logbook then, and it is second place, so it's not doing bad against the other models I've reviewed this year, just below the Bachmann R&R crane and above the Bachmann Wharflat. Yep, it's a good looking brake van, reasonably priced as well, although the low price is reflected in the lowish detail and lowish quality of the brake van. Well, there you have it then folks, that was my review of Hornby's ex-LMS 20-ton brake van. And yeah, it's pretty decent. It's obviously not the most complex brake van in the world. I think that's probably still going to Rapido with their SECR jobby. But I think the reduction in complexity on this brake van is reflected in the price, particularly the current prices at the retailers, which do tend to be discounted quite generously. And let's be honest, the lack of kind of separate lamp brackets and lighting, that kind of thing, doesn't really detract from a model too much, as long as you're not paying a fortune for the model, and in this case you're really not doing. So yeah, level of detail absolutely fine, it looks good, it runs well. The only real downside for me is the visible glue. I just hate picking up a model and seeing that white glue mist all over it, and on this example that was pretty bad. So that's a real downer for me, but I think it would be the only one with this. So do comment down below, let me know what you think about this. Will you be picking one up? If so, please use my affiliate link, thank you. And if you have one already, what's it like? Did you have any glue marks? Did you get one of the different liveries? Are there any different features across the 20-ton brake van range? Do let me know, but for now, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Alright, cheers folks, you take care.